Welcome to your metric, measurement, and variables exam. A student wants to test to see if giving dogs a toy to play with makes their tail wag more. He gives dog toys to one group, while another group of dogs does not get any toys. He counts the number of times each dog wags their tail. What is the independent variable? Remember independent and think about the clue words we chanted in class. Is it the number of tail wags? The same type of toys, same time allowed to play with a toy, toys or no toys, how much each dog barks. How would you protect yourself from accidentally ingesting chemicals? Ingesting means to take in your body. No eating or drinking in the laboratory. Do not touch face with your gloved hands. Remove gloves and wash your hand prior to leaving the lab. Or D, all of the above. Chase and Corbin want to know if stretching a rubber band at different lengths affects the distance the rubber band will fly. They will use centimeters for all measurements. What is the dependent variable? Is it how far the rubber band stretches, the distance the rubber band flies, the different lengths of rubber bands, or Chase and Corbin? Remember, dependent's what we're looking for. Two groups of students were tested to compare their speed working math problems. Each group was given the same problems. One group used calculators, and the other group computed without calculators. List a controlled variable. So it's looking for one controlled variable. Think about our clue words. Is it the time the problems were completed? The same math problems? Group with calculators? Or students without calculators? Which of those would be a controlled variable? What is the independent variable in the graph below? Remember, we talked about how the first side is one variable and the second side is another variable. The independent variable is measuring the height of the plants in centimeters. The independent variable is plant tops or tops of plants. The independent variable is different colored lights. Or the independent variable is the same size pot, same plant type, and same water. What is the correct measurement of the bar below? This is the bar. This is your centimeter metric ruler. Is it 8.8 centimeters, 88 millimeters, 7.5 centimeters, or 7.8 centimeters? What is the correct measurement of the graduated cylinder? Remember that you need to know how much each line's worth before you start measuring. And we learned how to do that in our labs. Is it 81 grams, 82 grams, 81 milliliters, or 82 milliliters? You have to remember what we measure liquid in. The blank variable is the one that scientists chooses to change. It's what's being tested. Independent, dependent, constant, or controlled. Mrs. McNeese wanted to see how different types of music affected students' pulse rates. She played different types of music: heavy metal, rap, R&B, alternative, pop, country, and classical music. Identify the independent variable. Is it heavy metal, R&B, alternative, pop, country, and classical music? How high the students' pulse rates were. The same pulse rate machine, same time music played, and same time of day the different students tested. Which one of these is the independent variable? Which you just reminded yourself up here what the independent variable does. Mr. Powers designed an experiment to see which group of students test the highest in his math class. Group A did not study for the test. Group B studied for 5 hours, and Group C studied for 10 hours. All groups were given the same math test on the same day. Which of the groups is the control group? Group A that did not study for his test, Group B that studied for 5 hours, and Group C that studied for 10 hours. Or the same math test on the same day. What is the correct measurement of the following bar in millimeters? Here's your centimeter metric ruler. Here's your bar. Is it 3.5 centimeters, 2.5 millimeters, 35 millimeters, or 3.5 millimeters? A scientist conducted an experiment to determine how the amount of salt in a body of water affects the number of plants that can live in the water. In this experiment, the independent variable is the water, the amount of salt in water, the temperature of the water, the number of plants in the water. What is the correct volume of liquid in the graduated cylinder? Remember to check your measurements for each line. Then you decide, is it 300 milliliters, 303 milliliters, 330 milliliters, or 340 milliliters? Laylee and Savannah wanted to know if the size of a coin will affect the number of drops of water it can hold. So they used a dropper to place the water on a quarter, a nickel, a penny, and what is the independent variable? Is the independent variable the number of drops each coin holds? The same type of water, same pipette, and same squeeze strength of the pipette? The amount of the water in the beaker, or the types of coins? And types of coins would mean quarter, nickel, or penny. When measuring the volume of a liquid in graduated cylinder, you should measure the top of the water, the meniscus, the middle line, or the minuscule. Think of your lab safety rules. You're heating a substance in a test tube. Always point the test tube end toward yourself to protect others, toward your lab partner so they can get a better look, toward another classmate, or away from all people. Convert 14.5 centimeters to millimeters. We found on our ruler how many millimeters the little lines were in 1 centimeter. So you've measured with your ruler and got 14.5 centimeters. How many millimeters does that make it? 1,450 millimeters, 0.145 millimeters, 145 millimeters, or 1.45 millimeters. Ethan wanted to know if the size of tire tread matter and how soon a car will stop. His study was done to find the different tire treads affect braking distance of a car. He used the Michelin brand tires. The distance the car traveled after brakes were measured. What is the independent variable? So look at what he's testing, what he's measuring, and determine what the independent variable's for. Types of tires, the distance the car traveled after braking, the different lengths of tire tread on the tire, or the time the cars were driven. When you finish working with chemicals, biological specimens, which means animals in jars, and other lab substances, always treat your hands with skin lotion, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water, wipe your hands on a towel, or wipe your hands on clothes. Riley is so excited about the Alka-Seltzer lab that she begins as soon as she walks into class. What's wrong? You must wait for instructions. B, you must work with your partners. C, nothing if she gets the lab finished. D, nothing if she doesn't break anything. Still working on lab safety. If you don't understand a direction or part of your lab procedure, you should figure it out as you do the lab. B, try several methods until something works. C, ask the instructor before proceeding. Or D, skip it and go on to the next part. What would rulers, electronic scales, and beakers be useful for? Following all safety rules in the lab, observing the chemical properties of substances, measuring the mass, length, and volume of substances, or performing experiments in the lab. What is the dependent variable in the experiment below? Jerome and Jeremy live next door to each other and are both very scared of bats. They know that a lot of bats come out of their neighborhood on Halloween, and they want to see if bat repellent spray will keep them away. Jerome buys a can of Bat Be Gone and repellent spray and sprays it all over his property, while Jeremy doesn't spray anything on his. Every night for 1 week, they count the number of bats that show up in their front yard between 7 to 11. So, what is the dependent variable they're doing in this bat experiment? The bat repellent spray, every night for a week, the same time, 7 to 11 p.m., or the number of bats seen? The blank is the part of the experiment the scientist chooses to change. It's what's being tested. So you might have seen this before. Is it a controlled variable, independent variable, dependent variable, or hypothesis? Blank is the part of the experiment that is measured in response to what's being tested. A controlled variable, independent variable, dependent variable, or conclusions. If you have questions, please ask. I can verify and explain the question to you. Good luck.